Elise, would you mind doing us the honor?
Sure. Ready? Begin.
All right. I'd like to call the board's attention to the meeting norms. Everybody has them on your table. Next, we have number C, report of action taken in closed session. And that's what. And board actions for the 22nd, call for action by the board. The administration requests taking action on the recommendation for a readmission for the following student. Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, ma'am. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And now we're to individuals desiring to address the board. Guidelines. Mr. Burns.
Yes, President Tavera. So we have a few speakers tonight here in person and a few who submitted public comments via email. For those that are here in person, I want to remind individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. The board may limit the total time for public input on a single item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentations depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to address the board. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. The board will not address the speakers during their presentations.
Excuse me, Superintendent Burns, we had one action to report out from personnel for closed session.
Go ahead.
Thank you. With a motion by trustee Rubio, seconded by trustee Acampo, the board approved, I vote 7-0, the appointment of Assistant Director of Student Services, Madonna Caddis.
Thank you. Ms. Ocampo, could you hear Dr. Simon? Yes, thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded by Salzberg. All discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we can go to committee.
Very good. So our first public speaker is Kelly S.
Really quick, are you guys reading the email comments first or?
As I stated, we'll read them afterwards. Yes.
Oh, afterwards, okay.
So if you have a comment in there as well, we'll only do one or the other.
Right, no, I have someone who's a teacher in your district or that wanted theirs read.
There's a letter in here from her.
Okay, there is, okay. All right.
They have started your time, Miss. Thank you. No, I'm
Hi,
not.
my name is Kelly, and I'd like to address the board. I'm a member of our community, and I value our students and many of our great teachers. I'm brought to the board this evening because I am concerned about the political indoctrination in our classrooms. As someone who grew up in Monterey County, I loved the opportunity to learn, to grow, to have many opportunities provided to me through our school districts in our area. I was growing up in the public school system. But much has changed in our schools. You have an ethnic studies curriculum that I ask that you remove from your agenda as a consent item. The reason being, your ethnic studies is operating critical race theory under the guise of that title. In your curriculum of ethnic studies, you are promoting chants to the Aztec god of human sacrifice. You also include an activist toolkit, and many teachers in the California Teachers Association are stating that education is activism. In the CTA's REACT committee, online, accessible on YouTube, there's a teacher that states that teaching is completely political in all aspects and realms. You're also including a chant to the Black Lives Matter, a unity chant. Since when did public education become a political activist organization? Our government should be neutral. Our political ideologies should be left out of the classroom. Other things, in addition to all of that, your activist toolkit, critical race theory seeks to divide. It basically is going to tell people to look at the color of your skin. Martin Luther King Jr. said that he dreamed of a day when his children would be judged not based on the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Critical race theory vilifies everything that Martin Luther King Jr. stood for, and if you're going to continue to teach about him in February, you ought to consider taking critical race theory out of your classrooms. Critical race theory also, I just have to make this important point. During the civil rights movement and the times of the 50s and 60s, many brave Americans chose to marry someone from the opposite skin color. They were disowned by their family members, and they were often denied many important lifetime rights because of the fact that they chose that bravely. But what critical race theory will do and is doing is it tells the very generations that are repeated from those brave Americans, guess what? These children, because they're mixed race, are part oppressed and part oppressor. So I'm here to tell the students in this community, if there is a teacher that is politically indoctrinating you, you tell them, you question what you're being told. You're a target on their mind to get their political goals achieved through you. It is time we all start questioning what every news media source says. It is time we start questioning what our teachers are doing in the classroom and start taking
Ms. Kelly, yes, we're at 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you. I request you take that from the consent agenda.
Thank you. Next we have Donna Hollenstein.
Representing 4 generations of our family that have been educated by the Santa Rita School District. I am appalled to think that you are entertaining the idea of putting this kind of garbage into our children's minds. Our children grow up together. They have friendships, people that they love and trust, who are of different nationalities, and then they're being told through these new CRT requirements that they're the oppressor and the other one's the victim. What on earth are you people thinking? Are you trying to destroy the innocence of our children? You need to stop what you are considering. This is insanity. You want to have a nation under God. Amen. We want liberty and justice for all. And we don't want any one of us being tagged as being an oppressor or being a victim because of the color of our skin. What kind of people are you? Amen. Amen.
Next, I have Lisa King.
A Cornell Law School professor, William Jacobson, describes critical race theory as a radical ideology that focuses on race as the key to understanding society and objectifies people based on race. While CRT has been around for a few decades, it really has gained prominence since the rise of Black Lives Matter movement, serving as an intellectual underpinning to grant the movement a perception of legitimacy as a civil rights movement. The 1619 Project attempts to bring all these forces together to reimagine and revise the historical narrative of America. The Smithsonian display on, quote, whiteness condemned all elements of civil society, including politeness, hard work, self-reliance, logic, planning, and family cohesion. None of those are white values, but critical race theory frames them just so. Robin DiAngelo, in her best-selling book, White Fragility, explains that your only option is the cultist option. Submit to your critical race theory overlords, then recruit others to do the same. If, however, you're a black person who disagrees with all this, well, then you ain't black. Accompanied with the fact that she did say she was a racist. A chilling statement made by Vladimir Lenin, and I want everyone to pay careful attention and see if this is going on in your own school. If we can effectively kill the national pride and patriotism of just one generation, we will have won that country. Therefore, there must be continued propaganda abroad to undermine the loyalty of citizens in general, and teenagers in particular, by making drugs of various kinds readily available, by creating the necessary attitude of chaos, idleness, and worthlessness, and by preparing him psychologically and politically, we can succeed. How will society look back on these times and view your actions? Remember that those who wanted slavery had justified their actions as justified also. If you're going to teach it, do you even believe it? If you believe that whites are oppressors, why do you have any whites on your board? Why do you have any white teachers if they're oppressors and racist?
So I apologize if I get the first name wrong. I think it's Darren Jones. Is it Don? Is it Don? Well, it's written in a way that I said I apologize before I read it. So if it's Don, we'll introduce it as
I couldn't hear your
Don.
apology because I can't hear you. Ethnic studies, young intellectuals, transformative theorists, critical thinkers, scholarly activists, toolkit, and framework. How many of you have actually looked at this garbage? Have you actually taken the time to look at what you are going to vote about? Let me read you a little bit of this. It's just, it's gobbledygook. Theory is not inherently healing, liberatory, or revolutionary. It fulfills this function only when we ask it to do so and direct our theorizing toward this end. That is a gosh darn sentence. Tell me, what does that really mean? Have you looked at all these pages of garbage they have in here for this diversity? I want to know, have you looked? You're going to vote on what's going to happen here in this county. You are taking the responsibility of teaching our children to hate each other. You're lining them up by race in the classroom. You're marking their arms whether they're vaccinated or not. You are segregating them. You are not bringing them together with love. You are segregating our children. My granddaughter is black, and I love her dearly. She makes $100,000 a year. She is not oppressed. I taught her to work hard. My great-granddaughter is half black and half Hispanic, and that girl's going to do the same thing. She's going to come out fighting, and she's going to get a good job, and she's going to work for everything she got. She's not going to go down there and get a check every month from the state. You guys are trying to separate these children and tell them they're oppressed or they're white and they're special. No, they need to learn to work for what they want in this life. And then, this all started when we took God out of everything. You take God out, and now you could do anything. There's nobody that they have to be accountable to when they die. Any of you that are Christian and you know God, you better stop thinking about what you are doing here, because you're making major decisions with our children, not your children. Our children our grandchildren, and I do not want my grandchildren taught that they should look at anyone's color. They look at the character of that person, whether they have integrity and morals. They don't look at the color. That's exactly what this does. Please look at what you are voting for.
Michael Light.
Good evening, I'm Michael Light. I have 4 children, my 5th on the way, destined for the Salinas City District. I attended my first school board meeting in over a decade 3 weeks ago. I realized a few things at that meeting. First, we have an amazing core group of teachers that have been incredible educators for our adolescent community during these suppressive times of COVID. Our teachers have worked tirelessly to facilitate the curriculum through the technological mechanisms that our administrations and boards put forth over the last year. Thank you to all of our teaching staff for your love of our children and your dedication to their future. Before I delve into the second realization, I'd like to state a couple of so many passages from an amazing man and great leader. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance or conscientious stupidity. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Racism cannot drive out racism. When I see these topics tonight on this agenda, I do not feel love. I am absolutely disgusted. The behavior of this administration and functioning board has turned into an activist group facilitating a political agenda. We do not have, For example, the Memorandum of Understanding Transformation of Our Education, Ethnic Studies Consultation in reference to the Memorandum of Understanding with Voices of Monterey. I want to be clear, I have the utmost respect for the Voices of Monterey Bay. I do not agree with some of the ideas they promote. However, we do have common ground, and they are a great contributor to our First Amendment. They are a successful activist and media source. And with that said, there is absolutely no place for activists within our school boards and administrations. This district has been transforming the education for our adolescents without expressly informing the parents of the abominable ideas, such as the promotion of transgender lifestyle and critical race theory to our children through the guise of ethnic studies. These principles are rooted in radicalism and racism to their core. They promote division and hate amongst society. How racist can this administration and board be to promote the idea that because you are white, you are more capable of achievement than people of color? How racist can you be to believe that because you are white,
Mr. Light.
you are more capable than someone who is black?
You're at
I'll finish
3
my
minutes.
point right now.
Thank you, sir.
This board has become an activist group and approved an agenda that is so clearly rooted in racism that there is no other options for you other than to step down as you are individually racist to your core. You do not belong in charge of our children's educational future. This district must walk back this radical and racist curriculum standard being put forward immediately. Us parents are giga-woke, okay? And we will never allow this board a pass on the earned criticism of its constituents,
Mr. Light,
and we will
wrap it
replace
up.
all of you.
Well, let's wrap it up. Thank you.
God bless.
Dr. Fred McClouston.
Thank you for the opportunity of addressing the board. One of the things that was concerning to us is the percent of students who have been deemed proficient in math, people who've been judged as proficient in reading. It's rather appalling. And we're taking time away from math and reading in order to teach other subjects. As a community, I don't think we're turning out a good product. You know, if you want products, children are going to come out and they're expected to perform in society, to be able to perform. And this level of performance is unacceptable. I mean, I go to Chick-fil-A the other day. They're normally an outstanding establishment. We've been to them around the country. And none of my large orders have been made correctly. Somehow, I look at 13% proficiency in math here, and I kind of tie the two together. But yet, we're going to spend time on critical race theory. So how does this play out? You know, we have a lawsuit that happened between the Asian students and Harvard University because they felt that they were being discriminated against, even though their scores were excellent. Harvard said, you know, well, if we accept all these people who have scored really well, they have performed with excellence. We're not going to accept them because we have too high a percentage of Asians, and this doesn't fit in with our mix of how we want things to be. That's not good as a society. It says that race is more important than excellence. That should not be. And we compound it. You know, if someone were to come in and say, hey, let's have we're going to read the Lord's Prayer after we say our Pledge of Allegiance in the morning, people would be having a cow. But on the other hand, we're going to have prayer to the Mayan god, you know, of war. If you've ever watched the movie, was it Apocalypto? You know, yes, here's the people that we've captured, and we're going to sacrifice them while they're still alive and tear their heart out. And this is a God that you want to pray to, and I don't see how this is not violating the Establishment Clause. I mean, really, if that kind of language was put in to pray to Christian God, and that instead you want to pray to a Mayan or an Aztec God, how is this not a violation of that Establishment Clause?
Dr. Fred, you're at 3 minutes as well, if you could wrap up.
Thank you very much. Oh, am I finished?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriel Williams.
Good evening. Good evening. There's a lot of emotion in this room right now. There's been a lot of emotion in our country these past, several years. All of it has centered around race. We've seen riots. We've seen protests. We've seen organizations, Black Lives Matter, rise and come to power and become a very powerful voice in our society. I've had many conversations with family, with friends. As an African American, I grew up in the South. I'm originally from McDonough, Georgia, about 20 miles south of Atlanta. I've experienced racism. Racism does exist. And I guess the heartbreaking thing for me as a black man, as an African American who loves his country, I was raised by my parents not to see race. And look, you guys have tough jobs, and I'm not up here to hit you over the head with a sledgehammer, but I just encourage every board member to just do research. I mean, one thing that I've noticed over these past several years with racism running hot, people are just not doing research. They don't know what's going on, So I encourage you guys just to look into critical race theory, look into its roots, where it comes from. what's at its core. And it's not good stuff. It's just not good stuff. And at the end of the day, you know, a house divided cannot stand. A house divided cannot stand. And, you know, whether you're black, white, Republican, Democrat, you know, we're all Americans. And we should want to be doing the best that we can to inspire the next generation to continue to love this country and love each other, not hate each other. So I'm praying for you guys. I'm praying for this county. I'm praying for this board. I pray, again, you guys have a difficult job. Your vote, every single vote up here matters. I encourage you guys just to do the research, and you'll find the truth. Thank you for your time.
I have Marianne Hermanita.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak to you. My husband said to put the microphone down, and I said, I might forget. And then I did. Anyway, I am a concerned grandparent. I have some questions that I need you to answer so I can better understand. What is the goal of ethnic studies? What is the end game? What's your motive for making students take this class? What is the ideology that fuels your intent to indoctrinate our children with this ethnic studies and critical race theory program? What is it? Does this agenda originate from the Democrat political party? Is it your goal to teach them and or brainwash them to think and vote the Democrat Party line? How is this providing a balanced view of our American political process? Does this course of study benefit your brand of politics? That is propaganda. Is it your duty to make sure these students learn to see everything through the lens of race? That's Democrat political action training. Will it be taught as truth with a capital T when it goes against the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our founding fathers' beliefs? Why have you made this course a prerequisite to graduate from high school? Why? Did you seek parental input before voting on this course of action back in April 2020 during the COVID lockdown? What if parents do not want their children to be taught anti-American dogma, which is what this is? Can they opt out? Why not? If it's a request, a prerequisite for high school graduation, then it sounds like they can't opt out. Why not? So I think this ethnic studies class is a Democrat political action class. It is wrong to indoctrinate our students, and that's what I think this is. Thank you for your time.
So just to notify the board, we are at the 20-minute mark for one single subject. You want to continue to go through the letters? As a board, you have policy that states you can limit one topic to 20 minutes. So what's the nature of the board?
You work for us. These are our children.
Does the board wish to continue, or does the board wish to end?
I would like to make a recommendation that since we have all the parents here, I would feel to allow them to
So
proceed, to
just
continue.
for clarity of the audience, so our soundboard in the back is monitoring and adjusting the mics. They're off when somebody's not speaking, so if we can pause as you're about to speak so that you can turn your mic up, that would help.
We're the parents and the grandparents.
Do you finish,
So,
Trustee
Trustee
Ocampo?
Ocampo?
Actually, I would like to hear all what they have to, since they're bringing up a lot of different ideas.
Can we hear from Trustee Police?
Yes, that's fine with me too.
Pardon?
That's fine with me too.
Yes, I agree.
Sure, why not?
Yes.
Okay, then we will continue.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. President.
so next we have Christine McQuistrian. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay, McQuistion.
McQuistrian.
Good evening. I'm a parent who lives here in Salinas. In April 2020, when most people were sheltering in place, at home trying to survive COVID, taking care of their families, this board passed the mandatory requirement of critical race theory disguised as ethnic studies. This radical and political curriculum passed with no opt-out option for parents. I would like to thank Trustee Jones, who's not here tonight, as being the sole person who voted against that. Learning about other ethnic groups is a worthy endeavor, but this curriculum is actually much different from that. CRT is a Marxist teaching that puts students against each other based on race in a time when leaders of this country are preaching for unity. The agenda says that this past inaugural year was a success, but what measures were used to make this conclusion? What measures will be used in the future? Now the administration wants the board to vote on transformation of education to further professional development. The consultant is Mr. R. Tolteca Quintin, Cuauhtin. I spell it out because people need to look him up. If you have not read about him, please take the time to do so. How did he get this contract? Were there bids from others who wanted to give ethnic studies professional development? No one seems to know, or no one will tell. The overall agenda of this consultant is not a secret. It's to decolonize American society and establish a new regime of counter-genocide. The curriculum, which is also not a secret, recommends that teachers lead their students in a series of chants to appeal to Aztec gods. One such god, Tezcatlipoca, is actually the god of human sacrifice and cannibalism. What next? Will we be putting Aztec temples in our schoolyards? Rather than politicizing our children's education with this radical propaganda and wasting taxpayer money, isn't it time that this district starts focusing on improving the basics of education? Such as math and reading. I looked up the math proficiency of this school, Everett Alvarez. It's only 13% math proficiency. What happened to striving for excellence in this school district? As a parent in this school district, our ask tonight, we have an ask. Our ask is that this agenda item regarding ethnic studies be pulled. We want it pulled. We want all stakeholders involved. We want the teachers. We want the parents to be able to have the opportunity to look at this curriculum.
You're at 3 minutes.
And to see what the children will be learning and chanting in their classrooms this year. Thank you.
Next, we have Stephanie Ashurst.
I'd like to ask, well, good evening. I'd like to ask the board members who have had a course in child development to raise their hands. Good, that's hopeful. And how many people spent more than 1 hour researching CRT before they voted for it? One person? 2, 3? Mm-hmm. It's really important to do that, I think, because guess what, guys? You are the shepherds at the door of the schoolhouse. If you let the wolves in, which you have done already, it sounds like, the children will be killed by the wolves. It's death to them. So think about it. And as others have said, be sure to study it well yourselves. Also, you must ask the parents. You must inform the parents. In fact, you must teach the parents. Teaching should not be too hard for board members of a school district. It should be possible. You get them together at meetings, you get your Spanish speaker, you get your English speaker, and you explain with charts and pictures and overheads and what have you exactly what their children will be learning, because you are the parent in loco. That means when they're here, when they are here in school, you're in the place of the parent. And also the teachers need to have a full understanding of this. And they need to be asked, are you willing to teach this? How many of you have ever asked a teacher that? Thank you.
Vanessa Madrid.
Okay, so I'm going to take off this illusion so I can speak, okay? So I have a message for all of the parents watching, all the parents that are here today. I have a very important book in front of me that maybe you guys don't really care about, I don't know. But it says in Joshua 9, it says, "Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thy dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with you wherever you go." And I also want to share something here about us standing up and protecting our children, our next generation. It says in Nehemiah 14, "And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of their people, Be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great, and tremble, and fight for your brethren, for your sons, for your daughters, for your wives, and for your houses." And that's why we are here today. You can cut the tension with a knife in this room. We are parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. We are community members. What's the end game here? What is the fruit of our labor with these children? These children are going to grow up to be community members. We want them to be good members of society, okay? And what I'm afraid of is our kids can't read. Our public school kids can't do math. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to form sentences, but you want them to chant radical stuff. You want them to chant to these different gods. What about this God? Why don't you teach from this history book? And you can see how things change, okay? I want to share, you guys are teaching about this Aztec God, which really bothers me, this chanting to BLM, this chanting to this God. Do you guys understand that words have power? Words manifest. You do not understand what you guys are conjuring up here, okay? And I need this to stop. When I talk about this book is history. There's science behind here. Jesus is proven. He was crucified. There's science, there's history. There's a case for Christ. He was crucified, he died, and he rose from the dead. That is the God that we serve, and that's the only God that we should be praying for, okay? Not none of this made-up heebie-jeebie stuff. This should be about education, not indoctrination. We've had enough. And if you guys don't want to do your jobs, then you know what? I bet some of these parents here do want to do that, because we want to see our children succeed. Thank you, and I encourage you guys to vote no on this. And may God bless you guys. And one more thing before I go. The Bible tells us that wisdom is more precious than rubies. So Miss Sandra, Mr. Tracy, Miss Patty, Mr. Carlos, Mr. Phillip, Mr. Dan, Mr. George, Miss Anna, Dr. Gabriel, Dr. Blanca, I encourage you guys to use your wisdom today. I encourage you to use your wisdom, because our children are our next generation, and I want to raise up good members of society that fear the Lord and love thy neighbor, not hate each other for the color of their skin, not victim-minded people. God created us in his image, and that's all I have to say for today.
Aidan McNutt.
thank you for giving us all this opportunity to speak this morning, or this evening. I am 18 years old and I am just about to graduate, and I just want to appeal to you guys to vote no on this, because we see a lot of tension, we see a lot of uprise of different groups in the United States over the past couple years. We have seen a huge schism between Democrats and Republicans, black people, white people. We have seen this divide amongst everybody. And I know that none of us likes it. None of us wants to be divided. And we all want to stick together, and as we talked about earlier today, there were many great points made by everybody. A house divided against itself will not stand. And we need to stay united, and the change starts with each one of us. But it really rests on your guys' shoulders tonight and when you make this vote. So I appeal to you guys as you make this decision to vote no on this, because this is how we are going to bring the United States together. This is how we're going to stay united and raise strong individuals who have maybe differences in opinion, but are able to work together and make a great country. Thank you.
Paul Rasmussen. No Paul? Okay, so I have some more that were submitted via email. So I'm going to read these off. The students should be inspired to learn the truth in our history of America. The reason for that, so we can learn and improve the future for the next generation, so we don't make the same mistakes again, and we can be proud of how far we have come, from the courage of our founding fathers and the brave soldiers who fought for our freedom. Please educate, not indoctrinate, the students that are the future of this country. A concerned citizen, Marilyn Gali, and a taxpayer in Monterey County. As a county taxpayer and a grandparent, you must get rid of critical race theory in our schools. I help pay your salaries, and we will vote you out. Then you will have no job. CRT is evil and divisive curriculum and cannot be infused into our children or adults. This is evil and un-American. Rosemary Soares. How dare you inflict garbage on innocent children of any age in our county and state taxpayer money? This is racist. It is the undoing of democracy. It is Marxist, and you should be fired. I suppose the American flag and Star-Spangled Banner shall be canceled next. Joyce Scampa. I'm a taxpayer, and we will surely vote you out, and you will have no job if you don't get critical race theory out of our schools, an evil, divisive curriculum that should not be infused into our brains. That's from Patricia Zobel. We are vehemently opposed to ethnic studies curriculum you are forcing on our children in the Salinas Union High School District. This so-called ethnic studies curriculum is actually critical race theory to hide the real content, which is racist, divisive, hate-filled, Marxist brainwashing, which divides families and destroys our nation. We demand that you not place that curriculum in our taxpayer-supported public schools. Why aren't you being open and honest to let parents and teachers decide what they want to teach? Mr. and Miss Alexander Holadolov. Dear Salinas Union High School District Board and community, I have worked as a teacher in the district for the last 5 years. I've enjoyed my tenure with the district, and I do believe we are teaching some of the greatest kids on earth. But I'm a minority voice, not because I'm a black teacher, but because I believe that allowing all of this CRT and BLM indoctrination in the classroom is unbalanced, too political, and will only do more harm in race relations and alienating our students that may not agree with these movements. I'm a minority because I cannot speak out against this without fear of consequence. I have seen lessons given to our students that glorify the founder of BLM, Patrice Cullors, even though she's an admitted trained Marxist, practices hate speech against all police officers, and is the founder of a far-left organization. I have researched the organization that you want to pay to teach our students, Voices of Monterey, that docks police officers before they even get a chance for a fair trial. They have called to defund police and have sponsored a replacement organization for the police. Some of our students have police officers who are fathers and mothers. Imagine if there was an organization hell-bent on abolishing one of your family members' professions teaching you. I believe if the district continues to move forward with all these divisive teachings, it will only harden the hearts of many of our students, as these teachings are pushy and only give carefully chosen narratives. I have decided to resign from the district, which is the only reason I feel brave enough to speak up without fear of repercussions. What was the world going to come to with one of the few black teachers feels afraid to share her voice in these conversations? I believe the district should refocus on making sure our kids are reading at grade level rather than the leftist indoctrination. To illustrate how counterproductive this has become, I received a gift from the district just for being a black teacher that was the most insulting gift I ever received. It had expired from Avon in 2015, and a mask that said, "Black Teachers Matter," which I would never wear in front of my students. What if a white teacher had a mask that stated, "White Teachers Matter"? It had a letter that had pagan religious greeting about how I'm a god, some dollar store hand sanitizer, and a quote, "I love being black" sticker with a BLM fist. I do not appreciate constantly being pandered to and treated differently because of the color of my skin, especially since I do not have the freedom to not go along with it. So please keep the CRT, BLM, Voices of Monterey, far-left indoctrination out of our schools. Sincerely, Cali. So I have a Shauna. Somebody said I missed a Shauna. Okay. Come. Paul. We called Paul.
Good evening. I am a concerned parent and citizen of Monterey County, and I oppose our school's teaching of critical race theory under the guise of ethnic studies, and I'm appalled that our school district is considering even more implementation. What started out as a series of theories and ideas among professors of law schools and academia, critical race theory postulates itself as self-evident truth, without any qualitative merit or history of usefulness in solving racism on a practical level. And now we want to try this theory out on our young people? Where are the facts and the evidence that this even works? And while certain media headlines incorrectly state that critical race theory, which is actually a neo-Marxist political ideology, as critical thinking, it's actually quite the opposite. Critical race theory promotes a militant agenda, and it also promotes role models who advocate violence, and it attacks traditional values that the U.S. is funded upon, like hard work, striving for excellence, equal rights, and individual freedoms. And this narrow lens of viewing our country and history divides people into victims and oppressors based on the color of their skin, and this is only going to lead to more strife and violence and racism. CRT assumes predetermined answers that all whites are inherently racist and that people of color are automatic victims, which prohibits free thinking and free speaking. And each child has inherent values taught to them by their families that shape their perspectives, and he or she should be free to express those opinions as part of class discussions without being labeled as wrong or bad or racist or bigoted. And in addition to these ethical and practical considerations, I question the legality of such teachings as I read federal and state laws like the California Ed Code 51500, which says that a teacher should not give instruction and a school district shall not sponsor any activity that promotes a discriminatory bias on the basis of race or ethnicity or religion or nationality. My suggested call to action is that we carefully understand and weed out and reject the critical race theory framework and see it for what it really is, a divisive and harmful social experiment, and replace it with actual constructive ethnic studies teaching that focuses on civic responsibility and inter-ethnic group understanding, to give our young people multiple perspectives without a specific political agenda. And this constructive teaching will give our kids the tools to live together peaceably in their communities, showing compassion and love for all people. As well, we need to get to the serious job about returning to the fundamentals of our school and what its purpose is, and that is teaching high-level math and science and reading and writing, as well as actual critical thinking, so that our children can be ready to compete
You're at 3 minutes.
and unite together as one people. I also encourage the board to look into the Constructive Ethnic Studies, or Cal-Eth Studies, which is a bipartisan grassroots organization that has studied this, and they have alternative models of the ethnic studies. Thank you.
Are you Paul? Yeah. You want to speak? Sure.
Well, thank you guys for having this meeting, first of all, and I appreciate the time and the ability to talk, and I apologize I had to run outside and grab a water. But I just want to give you a couple of my thoughts. First of all, I'm in an interracial marriage. So my kids are half Haitian and half Danish. I was born here in the United States. My wife is a citizen also. She was born in Haiti. And if you guys implement this type of teaching, think about it. What message are you sending to my kids? Are they the oppressor, or are they their own victims? I mean, really, think about it. And to say black is always a victim, that makes you, the person, you're assigning something to them that's not true. And that makes you automatically an oppressor, regardless of your race or your ethnic background. Because you're saying they're not people of value. That's not true. You're teaching a false doctrine that's politically based and has nothing to do with healing the divide that is in our country right now. We're trying to heal that. And by teaching, let's use racism to end racism, I mean, come on, guys. Let's have some senses. You guys are adults. Kids know. Why do kids know better than adults? My kids don't even know what race is. They don't even care. All they care, mommy and daddy. So when you guys go and teach this kind of crap to people, indoctrinate them with this kind of crap, it's damaging to the people, it's damaging to society, and it's totally not unifying black and white, Asian. It's not healing the racial divide that we have today. So you guys want to do that? That's fine with me. But you know what? We're not going to stand for it because we're parents and we're smart. And our kids will eventually figure out the wrongs that you've taught them, and they will reject that teaching. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
So I have a couple more on this topic. So good evening, Superintendent Burns and members of the board. My name is Dr. Karissa Purnell, and I've had the privilege of working as an educator in our Salinas community for over the last decade. In the last few years, I've had the opportunity to teach ethnic studies at our local youth facilities, as well as at the Salinas Valley State Prison. Ethnic studies was where I found my voice, where I found my power. I learned the history of not only where I come from, but it gave me the vocabulary to articulate what I felt for my entire life growing up as a woman of color, daughter of an immigrant who came to this country that gave me an opportunity. In graduate school, I read Rethinking Ethnic Studies, and when I learned that Salinas Union High School District is planning to work with a co-author, Artoltec Quantintin, I was elated. This is a reflection of the Salinas Union High School District's leadership to not only develop our students into civically engaged citizens and stewards of critical change, but to provide the highest quality of professional development available to access the experts in the field that will allow our teachers to be a catalyst of change in their own classrooms. While aligning with the state's model ethnic studies curriculum, this localizes the content and helps guide our teachers to grow the course with support, guidance, and professional coaching from a national leader that has been committed to this work for a lifetime. I want to extend my gratitude to leadership for supporting our students in all that they are, but also supporting our Salinas teachers with such intentionality to grow their capacity as educators of transformative curriculum. Today's meeting, from civic literacy and learning to a focus on to create inclusive democracy in all forms in our schools, is truly something special, something powerful that many of us have waited our entire lives for. In solidarity, Dr. Karissa Purnell. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Burns. I'm Luis Chago Juarez, neighborhood organizer for Building Healthy Communities, and as an alumni of El Sal Middle School, when it was still called junior high, and Alisal High School, class of 1990, I want to express my gratitude to you all for courageously taking a strong lead in supplementing the district-wide approach to teaching in the 2020s with a culturally relevant resources such as that of the consultancy of Artoltech Huntington. His work will help bridge the understanding of the communities of which students belong to that come from 93901, 05, 06, and beyond. Thank you all. Okay, so now I have a couple that are not on this topic. Okay, one more on this topic. Good evening, esteemed board members. I'm writing you in support of moving forward with the proposed MOU with our transformation of education and consulting with one of the leading experts and advocates in ethnic studies nationally. Our first year of working with Tolteca helped our educators feel ready to begin teaching a brand new course in a field that many had no prior background and in the midst of a pandemic. Throughout our year-long collaboration, we held bi-weekly district-wide PLC meetings helping teachers plan, reflect, and improve their lessons. Tolteca helped to bring together our first iteration of a course reader, coach teachers when they had questions about their practice, and offered insight in crucial stages of developing our program here in Salinas. We are still in the very beginning stages of developing our ethnic studies program and are still very much in need of the support through teacher professional development, curriculum design, and pedagogical coaching. This MOU would help the district deliver on a key need our teachers asked for, more professional development and support in ethnic studies. I implore the board to see attacks on this work for what they are, an organized attempt being nationally done to conflate critical race theory while teaching historical truths and demoralize all of those that help students critically understand themselves and their communities better in order to transform them in the image of justice. Community members who are quick to attack our ethnic studies program, curriculum, and professional support structures without taking the time to reach out and learn about why we are teaching and what we are teaching do not have the power to impede our district from securing resources that their employees, students, and community want and need. I urge the esteemed trustees to not be deterred by their commitment to provide our community with the best ethnic studies program around. This MOU will continue to help just do that. Thank you for your time, Mark Gomez, Curriculum Specialist. Okay, these are not on topic. My name is Joe Pelix, Technology Advisor at Alvarez Technology Group. ATG is a technology and cybersecurity firm based in Monterey County. We are currently a vendor of Salinas Union High School District. My comments today are regarding the ongoing persistent cybersecurity threat, specifically targeting K-12 schools. Our school systems are literally under attack. We are briefed regularly by the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, and there's evidence that these attacks are going to increase in pace and intensity to disrupt the core of the education system of the United States. This information is being provided by the FBI, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the White House. If you would like further information regarding these topics, please let me know. The time to act is now. There is a national set of standards for proper cybersecurity practices maintained by the National Institute for Standards and Technology, called the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. One of the core principles is that cybersecurity is now a top-down effort that requires the board to be primarily responsible for driving cybersecurity efforts. As members of the board, you must be actively involved in making sure that your systems are protected as best as reasonably possible to ensure that you are able to deliver education to your students. We fully expect to see a continuation and expansion of the executive orders issued by the President, which will require education institutions to follow national cybersecurity standards. Almost all of K-12 school districts receive and use federal dollars, and they are mostly a part of America's critical infrastructure. I urge the Board of Trustees to take emergency action to begin the process of securing your computer systems and network infrastructure. The published guidance is that you should be engaging with a third-party certified managed security service firm as soon as possible. Please feel free to contact me at Alvarez Technology Group for further information or reach out to your provider of choice. Again, I urge you to recognize the immediate threat against your ability to educate students and act without delay. Joe Pettix. So I have one more from Alma Laredo.
My name was never called.
Did you? Hey, what's your name?
Hello?
Hold on, Maria.
I'm a parent and a grandparent, and I'm addressing all of you as parents, grandparents, even if you're aunts, uncles. We spend hours trying to find a babysitter for our child the first time we go out, hours trying to find a babysitter. And then we get to the point where we drop off our kids to you guys, and 8 hours later, we pick them up. And we do that automatically. We don't spend hours researching each and every one of you. Your background, your history, we quiz you. We ask for recommendations for you before we drop our child off to you, to school. We don't do that. We just used to automatically trust the school and the teachers, the principal, everybody in that school system to do the right thing for the child, automatically. The critical race theory, it's obviously not right. And anybody who looks into it can see that very quickly. As a matter of fact, parents who start to look into it go to school boards, go to schools, and try to get the curriculum. And they're told there is no curriculum, they're not using the right words, or here's the curriculum, but they didn't ask for the supplementals, so they didn't really get what they're really teaching our children. Everybody's upset, and you know that statistically when you see one person coming to speak, there's 20 behind that are at home and agree. So that's a lot of parents and grandparents that are very upset about this. Why, when we go to get the curriculum, are you hiding it? Are the teachers hiding it? Are the schools hiding it? Why are we so upset? You need to really look into this if you haven't already, and you don't see how wrong it is. And it's really, really hard for us to believe that you really don't understand the damage that critical race theory will do and is doing. Thank you.
So the last one is Alma Laredo. Do we have Alma?
Hold on.
No, she's not here. She's on the... Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Buenas tardes, miembros de la mesa directiva, presidente y superintendente Burns. Mi nombre es Alma Loredo. Soy madre de este distrito de las escuelas Alisal y La Paz, miembro de SSC de ambas escuelas. También soy miembro del comité de LCAP de este distrito y organizador del comité de Padres Unidos bajo la organización VHC. Quiero agradecer que esté recibiendo comentarios públicos a través del correo electrónico, ya que esto nos ayuda a tener la oportunidad de expresarnos y seguir participando cívicamente en este espacio. Gracias por escuchar nuestras necesidades. También agradezco su apoyo hacia las prioridades que los jóvenes de la cosecha presentaron y que hayan sido incluidas en el plan de LCAP. Quiero seguir reforzando lo importante que es que padres y jóvenes se mantengan no solo informados, sino involucrados con una participación activa y auténtica que nos va a permitir alcanzar metas con planes claros e intencionales. Es por eso que les pido que se desarrolle un plan de involucramiento de padres, jóvenes y comunidad que se incline en organizaciones como VHC y el grupo de jóvenes de la cosecha que han demostrado ser esos expertos, que se tome la ventaja de los padres y jóvenes líderes que hay en el distrito. Queremos que se nos dé la oportunidad de participar de una manera auténtica en el desarrollo de los planes y la implementación de estos para así lograr estos resultados que nuestros jóvenes necesitan para tener el éxito y ser académicamente competentes. Gracias por su atención y espero que se tome en cuenta mi sugerencia y se lleve a cabo, ya que esto lo traigo a ustedes con la mejor intención de ser colaboradores y compañeros en la vida de nuestros jóvenes del distrito. Respetuosamente, Alma Loreto. Good afternoon, member of the Board of Directors, President and Superintendent Burns. My name is Alma Loredo. I am mother of this district of Alisal and La Paz schools, a member of the SSC of both schools, and also a member of LCAP committee of this district and parent committee organizer under the BHC organization. I want to thank you for receiving public comments via email, as this helps us to have the opportunity to express ourselves and continue to participate civically in this space. Thank you for listening to our needs, and also thank you for your support towards the priorities that youth of La Cosecha submitted and have been included in the LCAP plan. I want to continue reinforcing how important it is that parents and youth stay informed and continue to be involved authentically, and because this allows us to achieve our goals with clear and intentional plans. This is why I ask you to develop a plan for the involvement of young adults and young students and parents in the community to participate in organizations such as BHC and La Cosecha Youth Group, who have proven to be such experts, and to take advantage of parents and young leaders in the district to be given the opportunity to participate in an authentic way in the development of the plans and implementation of these in order to achieve the results that our youth need to be successful and academically competent. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that my suggestion will be taken into account and carried on, since I bring this to you in the best intention in order to collaborate with partners in the lives of our youth in the district. Respectfully, Alma Loredo. Thank you all very much.
So the last one is Karina Powers.
Thank you, members of the board. As a Latina, I was confronted with a lot of race issues, but in our family, we were raised to not hate upon one another, to work hard and to earn by merit everything that we do in our society, just like you, many of you have done. I think that this CRT education is pretty much teaching the opposite, teaching hate and teaching to live a life of victimization, to see themselves with the eyes of victims, not as as a suppressor. We want to encourage our students to be more of a encouragement, more of enlightening them to further and empower them with more education. And I feel that CRT is not something, I hope that you guys vote, it's not something that's good for our students, good for our children, and good for our future. Thank you.
Next, we'll move to presentations. We have civic literacy and learning plan.
Dr. Baltazar-Sapon?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burns and President Tavera. Tonight we have with us Mr. Mark Gomez, who will be presenting a summary of our civic literacy and learning plan and giving you some information as to the stakeholders that were involved in the development of the plan. So, Mr. Gomez?
Good evening, board members. I'm just going to queue up the presentation really quick. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry, having technical difficulties, of course. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Burns and Assistant Superintendent Dr. Baltazar-Sapon. I appreciate you all having me here to present on the Civic Literacy and Learning Plan. And I think in light of the healthy public commenting session, I would just say that this plan was brought together through the commitment of so many advisory committee members who, the last time I addressed the board, I was able to share out with you the composition of the advisory committee, and most importantly, the young people that helped to shape this vision of civic literacy in the district moving forward for years to come. So we often want to begin by making clear the why. And John Dewey once said that democracy has to be born anew every generation, and education is its midwife, a process through which young people develop the knowledge, skills, and commitments to interact effectively with fellow community members to address shared problems. So in the last several years, there have been a number of reports citing the role of schools, the importance of education in the civic mission of our country, and the state of such civic education, which is dismal to say the least. And here you can see just some of the titles of those reports, which are also linked on the presentation slide. But the why is that it's the role of education to help usher forth the continuing renewal of democracy in our society. And how do we, what does that mean? So civics is just more than a semester course in a social studies sequence, a semester before you graduate or the semester that you are graduating, right? So what we're looking at is the promising practices that have been identified through a lot of research in compiling these promising practices throughout our curriculum and having students get multiple opportunities to practice these skills and knowledge sets and dispositions, and not just in 12th grade government classes, but in every class where we can find authentic connections within the fields of disciplines. So we're looking at engaging students in practicing how to use their voices to propose solutions to shared problems, whether those are problems in the community at a national level. Asking students their opinions is just the very first step, right? Actually having them involved in decision-making processes that affect them in their lives, educating them through the skills that are necessary in the 21st century to understand the difference between fact and fiction online, understanding the importance of giving back to one's community, respectfully addressing controversial issues and current events through deliberation, through listening to different perspectives, right? And creating conditions where all students, regardless of their background or their zip code, can feel safe in learning in every classroom and becoming active community members upon graduation. The other part of what we've also heard about in previous presentations, knowing that the California Department of Education passed the state seal last September, state seal of civic engagement, and really wanting to put forth a process at the local level that allowed for the most equitable opportunities for all students to have access to high quality civic education and therefore earn the state seal of civic engagement on their diploma in the 11th and 12th grade. And furthermore, there's been a lot of work as of late, both in scholar circles as well as policy, educational policy, that has repositioned the importance of civic education at the center of what we do in schools. And so what you're seeing here is from a national framework, Educating for American Democracy framework, which is also linked to the presentation. And some of the themes and topics that are being recommended to make sure that every student has the opportunity to wrestle with throughout their career in secondary education. The how is really important, right? So in this plan, this is a detailed plan, we have identified 4 major areas and keys to success. So it's not just the role of schools to help prepare our students to become civic participants in their communities in the future. One of the ways that we have to do this is through partnerships with community, collaborative partnerships with communities. That means civic organizations, faith-based organizations, after-school programs and clubs, right? But also recognizing that if we are really about providing every student with an equal opportunity, that some of this has to be done in the classroom as well. One of the ways that we envisioned, that our committee envisioned successful integration of civic education, high quality civic education for all students in Salinas Union, was to have schools in deeper collaboration with the surrounding communities that send our students to us. Likewise, we found it important that each site would need to develop a team of folks who were dedicated to integrating the civic education recommendations in the plan with what's already happening on the site that's successful, right? So finding points of integration with current projects that are happening at different grade levels, different opportunities that schools are already providing for students, that we can therefore just expand the civic component of these programs. Of course, in getting a program up and running and improving it in its implementation, we would want to collect a lot of data. So, but we wanted, the committee, especially the students, wanted to move beyond just superficial collections of survey data from students, right? We really want the district to take advantage and take the opportunity to engage students where they're at, find the spaces where they, or create spaces where they feel comfortable in sharing their experiences of school, and getting them involved, and getting some, not only quantitative, but qualitative feedback as well, for program improvement. So hosting more focus groups, more listening sessions where students are actually in detail explaining what their experience is when it comes to civic education in this district. And then of course, on a district-wide level, being very clear about where civic education and literacy aligns with our other district-wide initiatives. From a literacy plan to our ethnic studies program, which we are proud of and offers a lot of different opportunities for students to take advantage of opportunities to work within their communities, to transform and offer solutions from their perspectives. So these are the 4 areas that the plan goes into much more detail around in terms of what we have identified as keys to success. Included in that, obviously, is curriculum. So this graphic was taken from another national report that was just recently released and is also linked in the slide around civic reasoning. And the purpose of this is just to highlight that, again, civic education doesn't just happen in social studies classrooms. It should be happening in all classrooms, right? And so there are multiple opportunities that we can begin to create where students are both learning the disciplinary mindset, skills, and knowledge bases within the core disciplines, and also having authentic opportunities to interact and apply those skill sets and knowledges to actual real-world problems that many of our students want nothing more than to discuss in class, and as well as contribute to being part of the solutions. And of course, in moving any initiative forward, we need professional development, right? And in particular, we need professional development for educators so that they understand how best to engage students in terms of leveraging the student voice within their classrooms, right? And student choice, so that it becomes democracy in action in actual classrooms, as opposed to just talking about democracy as an abstract concept that that students aren't ready for until they graduate and they're 18, right? As well as professional development around how to get students involved in civic action projects and how to help students understand what power they do have as young people in transforming their own realities, right? And then of course, what's fundamentally important is helping teachers understand how to move their practices towards having students be empathetic to each other, to building a classroom community where differences of opinions can be opportunities to learn, where students' civic voices are heard but not shut down, and where imagination and critical thinking play a central role in helping them to learn more deeply, not only about all the things in the standard curriculum, but also about who they are and how they want to be, how they want to show up in this world. And so from this report, again, you'll see that these are some key curricular approaches, some recommendations that many different organizations and reports have kind of compiled as best practices, right? And so you can also read more about that in the linked slide. Ultimately, I think this image is very helpful. We have students in this district who are highly involved and want to make a positive difference, but they want our district to do more in terms of creating opportunities for them to be involved in their own education. And so moving from the left side of the spectrum, right, in terms of just students as sources of data, to actually moving to the right where students are leaders of change and collaborators within the different processes of what we're here to do, which is all for them, right? The when of this is we hope to begin this upcoming year to lay a strong foundation, partner with the MICFA Challenge, which is a nationally recognized civic educational organization that provides professional development, curriculum, and support for teachers. And through a partnership, we hope to begin to lay the foundation for our district to be a model site for action civics across the curriculum. Obviously, it's going to talk about like PD. We're looking to identify site teams to help get this initiative happening at each school site. And then there will be opportunities for those site teams to help create a district-wide team that is coordinating these efforts and sharing best practices across the district. We're also having this civic learning plan highly in alignment with our plans to hopefully award many seals of civic engagement to the upcoming graduating class. And for our younger students, we're hoping to see our first Project Soapbox competition, which essentially is a district-hosted speech competition where students at the middle school level and possibly ninth grade get a chance to research an issue that they're passionate about and speak powerfully on it, recognizing that their voice actually has a potential to make a difference and get people involved in solving some of today's big problems. Year 2, we want to continue to build capacity with continued PD and coaching for our teachers, and we want to introduce a district-wide student action civics showcase to demonstrate to the community that this type of education not only provides students with opportunities to get better at reading and writing and critical thinking, but also gets them involved within their own community. And so we're very excited to feature some of the work that our students are already doing on their own, but now we'll have more of a system-wide support in doing so. And then in year 3, we hope to emerge as an Action Civics model site, model district, and have sustained programming with identified community partners who are also helping to prepare our students for not only college and career, but community readiness. So that concludes my presentation for you all. And I would be happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Excuse me, this meeting is between the board members, sorry. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? No. Can you please, this is our meeting now. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
No. None? Okay, well, thank you. Well, yes, sir.
I want to make a comment. One thing that struck out to me there is really important at the bottom says preparing to be community leaders, and that's important. That's real important because giving back to the community, aside from your work and whatever you're going to be doing, how you affect everything after you're done at your employer or what you're doing with your family, what you're doing to your neighbor, so it's good. I found that to be very refreshing that was added in there. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Now we'll move to the next one, which is the local indicator data.
Thank you.
This is our meeting, sorry. This is our meeting. You can leave if you don't want to be here. Well, Dan.
So, for clarity, there was time for public comment. Hold on, just a point of order, okay? This is a public board meeting. There's time for public comment. That time has ended. The board's agenda is moving forward. There isn't an interaction and dialogue during that agenda. So I'm going to turn it back to President Tabera so we can continue with the agenda.
Can we have the report on local indicator data?
Thank you, President Tabera. At this
Thank
time,
you.
I'd like to introduce Director Mr. Bobby Cannon to give us a report on the local performance indicators.
Good evening, President Tabera, members of the board, Superintendent Burns, and Cabinet. Thank you for providing me this time to go ahead and present to you our 2021 local indicators. Just some background on this process. The presentation of local indicators, and you can go to the next slide, please. The presentation of local indicators to the public are part of the requirements governing the local control funding formula. The local control performance indicators provide data on some of the state priorities not contained in the California dashboard. They reflect the state's commitment to local control, and the data helps inform the LCAP, Local Control Accountability planning process. Next slide. So this is a map of basically how the indicators relate to the 10 state priorities. The state indicators reflect priorities 4 through 8. The local indicators, which we'll be previewing tonight, are data on the first 3 priorities, and they also contain data on priorities 6 and 7. So a little more context to school climate and access to a broad course of study. Next slide. So the first priority deals with appropriately assigned teachers, access to curriculum-aligned instruction materials, and safe, clean, and functional school facilities. So in terms of appropriately assigned teachers, next slide. So this was a summary of the 2019-20 findings, and this represents the first report that was generated with what they call the California State Assignment Accountability System. And that combines course assignments along with student rosters and teachers attached to those course assignments, and the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And all of that information is cross-checked to determine if teachers are appropriately credentialed to teach the subjects and sections that they're teaching. So in 2019-20, the first iteration of this report, the summary findings are there. And the numbers represent not necessarily a teacher, but the number of sections that teacher taught that might have been teaching a class that was they were not properly credentialed for. So this is considered, the 1920 report was considered a non-consequential year. So it's the first time that they've used this reporting system to present this data. And we're in the process of sending our 2021 end of year data on courses and rosters to what's called CalPADS, the State Information System. So we anticipate that this report for the 2021 year will be generated sometime in late fall. Next slide. The second part of the priority deals with teacher vacancies, and according to the Human Resources Department for the 2021 year, this represents the vacant positions that remain vacant for all year long. So Allison High School had a folklorico, 1.0 FTE, and a 0.5 special ed assignment that remained vacant. Everett Alvarez had a 1.0 FTE of ROTC, but I believe they were supposed to have 2 teachers for ROTC, so they had 1 teacher filled, but 1 was vacant. And then, according to the HR department, for the entire year, the rest of the sites had 0 vacancies. Next slide deals with instructional materials and facilities. So from our 2021 Williams report, all sites were found to have sufficient instructional materials, and all sites received an exemplary status and were found to be in good repair. Going on to priority 2, we chose to use what's called a self-reflection tool to review the implementation of state standards, so I'll take you through that. Next slide. So the first rubric deals with providing professional learning for teaching to the recently adopted academic standards, and for the core content areas of English, ELD, math, next generation science standards, and history. We rated ourselves as full implementation and sustainability. We have the structure with very competent and dedicated teachers on special assignments supporting ongoing professional development and curriculum standards and assessments. And they leverage their work by gathering people and really presenting a collaborative culture when it comes to professional development and learning with regards to supporting the teaching of the standards. Next slide. For the second rubric, dealing with making instructional materials that are aligned to the adopted standards, we rated ourselves as full implementation and sustainability for the core content areas, with the exception of the next generation science standards. And the reason for that is for the middle school, we are we just completed year 2 for the middle school NGSS curriculum. We was approved to use supplemental materials for the 21-22 year until we adopt a high school curriculum, which we plan to do this fall, to be implemented in the 22-23 school year. Next slide. This rubric deals with implementing policies or programs to support staff in identifying areas where they can improve in delivering instruction aligned to the standards for the core content areas. We rated ourselves as full implementation. We have common district assessments for all of these content areas. We have professional learning communities in collaboration weekly where teachers need to answer what we call the 4 questions. What is it we need kids to know, which there's a great process to agree on essential standards for that within the PLC. How are we going to know if they know it? What are we going to do if they don't know it? What are we going to do if they do know it? So we have had that process and structure in place. We didn't rate ourselves a 5. We think there's still more work in targeting specific areas where students are not getting standards and providing the structure for intervention and reteaching. So that's been work in progress, but we feel like we are moving towards being able to say that we are at full implementation and sustainability. The next slide deals with implementing the standards for the non-core content areas. All of these areas have adopted standards. We don't have a specific TSA like we do for the core content areas, supporting being able to provide constant support and facilitation with the teachers teaching these content areas, but the Ed Services Department uses all the opportunities it can, whether it's summertime, after school time, to support the implementation of these standards. For CTE, they're looking at, they have a bigger structure to support that, but there's been a lot of work to continue to broaden the access to CTE pathways and provide more opportunities for different type of pathways. Next slide. In terms of specific areas that the state wanted us to rate ourselves on for the implementation of state academic standards. So the first one, identifying the professional learning needs of groups of teachers as a whole. We rated ourselves as full implementation. There are lots of surveys that we use to identify areas that teachers need support in or feel they want some additional support in. We go through a lot of process of analyzing assessment results, grade data to determine areas that we can help support professional development from those results. And site administrators use our observations on where they can provide additional support from the data on those observations. The second part, identifying the professional learning needs of individual teachers. Right now, we rated ourselves as initial implementation. Is feeling that a lot of that is done through the evaluation process and teacher opting into the instructional coaching opportunities that we provide on the site. And the last part, providing support for teachers on the standards they have not yet mastered. We again believe that that probably mainly reflected in the evaluation process, which doesn't encompass all teachers every year. So we felt like there's room for growth in terms of getting more teachers to be aware of different standards that they can master. Next slide. Priority 3 deals with family engagement. The director of special projects and her staff took the time to rate themselves, since this is the area that they are, one of the areas that mainly in charge of, working with the parents and the families. So in the first area of building relationships, you can see the results there. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things that they wrote and some of the comments to me with regards to this. So they believe in this area, professional development and resources are provided to registrars, community liaisons, new orientation and administrators in terms of building relationships. The areas of growth will be providing teachers with resources to help them understand the family strengths, cultural language, and set goals for their children. And there's been significant improvements in two-way communications with the different technology platforms that the district and individual sites have adopted. But in terms of moving towards full implementation and sustainability, the work would be to get a common platform for two-way communication in more than one language. There's been some feedback in families having to communicate depending on where their child is through different ways, which can be kind of confusing if they have kids at different schools. Next slide. This section deals with building partnerships for student outcomes. So you can see the content area and the ratings there. Again, reflecting some of the comments that the director provided. She said that each school site offers various parent workshops focused on increasing awareness, class nights, financial aid workshops, intervention meetings, ABG requirements, and promotion and graduation meetings are just some examples. The community liaison there at each site connects with families, with our schools and our communities, so that is something that we support. Parents are provided with their parent rights annually and can continue to find out about them on the district parent engagement webpage or student handbooks. And the area of growth would be to improve sharing research regarding parent engagement with teachers and administrators too, so that they have better awareness of the types of efforts that are going on to involve parents. And next slide. In terms of seeking input for decision making, again, the notes for the director, professional development to staff and parents in parliamentary procedures to engage families in various committees district-wide to provide input. So it's the parliamentary procedures that allow them to take action in those meetings. And some of the examples that they cite was the school site council meetings, the English learner advisory committees at the district and sites, LCAP advisories, FFA and boosters. There's a lot of emphasis put on parliamentary procedures to make decisions within those organizations. Areas of growth would be to provide more opportunities for underrepresented subgroup families, such as newcomers, families from Guatemala and El Salvador, to participate in committees. or in the workshops, and more collaboration with site administrators, counselors, and teachers to identify underrepresented families and the family needs. So that's the work that they're going to focus on going forward next year. Moving on to priority 6, school climate. So usually in the past we've provided California Healthy Kids Survey data, but it was determined that this past year and a half we really ramped up our own surveys. So I'm going to present to you what was presented to the through the PBIS annual evaluation summary for 2020-21. The 4 areas that the survey data represents of the students covered student connectedness to an adult on campus, safety at school was the second question, safe learning environments the third, and schools have clear-cut rules is the 4th area. And their analysis, just reading directly from the slide, said, looking at this data, it is evident that emphasis on school climate and safety through our PBIS framework is helping our students feel safe in the classroom and school environment, even in the digital space. So you can see in like the first one, connected to an adult, 3/4 of our students agreed or strongly agreed that there was an adult that they could talk with. We are proud that students also feel that there is an adult, which we just shared, that they could talk to at school if they need help. We see the percentage growing during in-person learning in 2021-22. So that's a testament to the outreach that our teachers and staff at the sites made each and every day through this difficult time. There was actually an increase in kids feeling that they could talk to a teacher. And that the group is planning to emphasize this trauma-informed approach going into the new year. Next slide. So access to a broad course of study. This is reflected a little bit deeper dive into the college and career indicators. Indicator that is regularly on the dashboard. And I forgot to mention the dashboard, the accountability portion of the dashboard was suspended in 2020 and 2021. So we won't have a full set of data on the dashboard with growth and status indicators until after this year. However, we did have some college and career indicator data that we could access through the dashboard for 2020. So next slide, we went through. So basically, the areas that we are presenting tonight are in our LCAP on different metrics that relate to access to a broad course of study. So we're looking at students on track, 9th grade students in high school who have earned 55 credits or more. We're still going through summer school and processing our end of year data. So the last official data that we're using for the baseline for this new LCAP, you can take a look there. 88.6% of all 9th graders were on track with 55 credits or more at the end of the 2019-20 year. Our goal is to increase that, and you can see the goals there over the course of the next 3 years. We are looking at middle school grades. So the baseline for that, again, comes from 1920, where 87% of our students at the middle school had grades of C or higher. And you can see the goals going forward in our LCAP. The following, till 2023-24. Promotion rates over the last 2 years, we, for 2020 and 2021, the middle schools did not keep track of the promotion rates. In fact, most of the middle schools allowed all students to participate, which was a positive experience by the principals who said that. So we didn't really collect data on that. But our goals, you can see for outcomes for 2023-24, which really came from the last official record we had when we kept track of this, I think it was 2019. That would be an increase from that 2019 data. And the CTE completion rates, so this CTE completers are a college and career indicator along with A&G rates. I'm just showing you the CTE cohorts. So in 2020, and this is data that is accessible, I believe in DataQuest, but anyway, about a quarter of our students who graduated also completed a CTE pathway, and we want to increase that. And you can see the breakdown for English learners, students with disabilities is SWD, and youth in transition is foster and homeless. And then finally, enrollment in advanced classes. So we're looking at grades 10 through 12 in 2021, so we do have data for this year. About almost a quarter, 23.9% of our students at the high school were enrolled in an advanced class or a AP class, or now we're just calling it advanced. It used to be referred to as honors and GATE, but now it's just advanced, or plus courses that we call them. And we want to increase that to almost 30% over the next 3 years. And just, I didn't list this, but I probably should have listed because it's in our LCAP. I just wanted to let you know that graduation rates and A to G outcomes are accessible in DataQuest. And for 2019, 42% of our graduates completed A to G requirements. And actually that bumped up in 2020 to 50.3%. So over half of our graduates are also completing A to G requirements, getting a C or higher in all of those courses. And then finally, a couple of reflective items for access to a broad course of study. So some of the things that you can see if you looked and focused on the ELs and students with disabilities, it's a large percentage of students, there's a big gap between all students and these student groups. And part of that is that English learners, one of the barriers is that they're learning English as well as academic content. And they also have to take an additional ELD class. And students with disabilities, a number of them also have an additional support class, what they call an individual studies class, that aren't really, can count towards an A to G requirement or a graduation requirement. And then some of the students lack additional supports for success in grade level and higher level courses. As a result of these findings, you can see in our LCAP for the 2021 to 2024, things like providing CTE coordinators to increase pathways are in there, specific actions by counselors to develop and monitor 6- and 4-year plans, continuing to support the fees for AP testing, providing multiple opportunities for PLCs, through support for PLCs, credit recovery programs, Saturday and summer, winter, and spring intersessions, and math and reading intervention classes. AVID classes also support this access to classes, a broad course of study, things like instructional coaching, additional support for English learners with like paraprofessionals in designated ELD classes, additional resources for foster and homeless youth, the support for PBIS to make sure students feel connected and safe and have a conducive learning environment, and additional staff, especially for this time, for social emotional learning and wraparound services. So that concludes the local indicator presentation. Anyone has any questions?
Questions? No question? Thank you, sir. That was really good. Oh, you got a question? Go ahead.
I have a question. So the report, the statistics that we got in there are based, I think, on the self-reflection and that. That's our own staff answering these questions?
Yes, that's the state provides you an opportunity to provide a narrative or use the self-reflection tool. So the main main contributors to those self-reflection tools were myself, the director in charge of Ed Services, Antonio Garcia, and Alma Garcia as the director of special projects.
And was that, I don't say mandatory, but did we have a high participation rate by staff? In
terms of
some of the answers,
providing opportunities for them to self-reflect on the staff? No, that hasn't been past practice, but it's something we could take into account to provide opportunities for a broader, specific input to these rubrics.
So the numbers that we got there came from a few people, a lot of people. I mean, we have what, about 700, over 700, right? Not more than 800 teachers, right? And then also our CSEA staff, our non-certificate staff, which is about equal in half. I want to do it to the T, but were they also participating in that?
This was, in a direct answer to your question, we did not provide a copy of the rubric and asked everyone to self-rate where they felt the district was for this process. So this was mainly looking at the directors looking at their programs and the type of support that they provide for teachers and the different components of the rubrics to determine what the rating was.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought it was by everybody in our district. That wasn't the case. Okay, all right, good. Well, good to know. And okay, all right. I guess we're going to take some. Well, there was a lot of stuff there to unpack. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have district communications.
Sandra,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a quick question, and this is in regards to the 23% that our students are, which is close to a quarter, attending AP classes and extracurricular classes. That is great to hear that. But what will be doing to increase that percentage on a yearly basis?
Sorry, I lost my camera, but I can hear you. I think some of the things that we're doing, continuing to support AVID classes that whole program is meant to get students into AP classes and function at high levels. Continuing to support AP testing fees. And I don't know if Dr. Balthazar Saval would like to add in there her comments with regards to the types of supports that we're doing. And just being really vigilant about sharing this data. I think the more we share data about where kids are on a regular basis, I think highlighting this and highlighting our goals will make sure that we're having that discussion with counselors and sharing that data, looking at the enrollment data at the beginning of the year, and just having opportunities to get more kids involved. The support classes we're offering for students, I think just continuing to do more and highlight more of the things that we are doing, but also highlighting the data and having discussions on how we can move more kids into those classes. And not only just move them into the classes, but support them with success.
I guess the second question, I guess the reason that I asked you that is that I know that our high school counselors, they always develop a kind of a master plan from 4 to 6 years. So maybe they will be the perfect person to really reach out to students and invite them and guide them how to, enroll in all those extra activities. Because sometimes the students are probably working part-time, they're not totally there, and they need to be approached. So I know that our staff is working harder already, but maybe that percentage can be really increased for the following year. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I got to ask.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If I may, President Tabera?
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to add that a couple of other items that we're looking at is from the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant. If you recall, we've added family workshops specifically to give additional information about college and career readiness. So we're hoping that increased communication with our families as well as monitoring the 4- and 6-year plans annually and informing our students through various ways, and not only once a year or twice a year, but various times throughout the year so that we keep reminding them of the importance of why it's important to get a C or better in their classes. And that partnership with the families is also critical. In addition to that, we have partnered with UC Santa Cruz and CSUMB to apply for the Gear Up grant that hopefully we will be awarded. If both universities get the award, then all of our schools will benefit from it. So those are additional steps that we're taking to increase that 25%. Additionally, with our career technical education pathways, we're looking at offering summer school courses for our students who typically do not have access to those courses because of their language designation or because they have an IEP. So because of the courses that they're required to take, because they're in those programs, they don't necessarily have the access to take it during the regular school year. So we're going to be expanding those options during summer school and other intersessions such as spring or winter if we're able to find the correct pathways for them to finish. So those are some ways and strategies that we're working on to increase that number.
Thank you, Dr. Baltazar-Sabat. And then just to wrap it up, I will say overall, the rest of the presentation, it's truly amazing. We got to say thanks to our teachers, thanks to our classifying, thanks to everyone that is involved in developing and actually raising our students, to the next level. So thank you.
And I forgot a really big one. Remember, we wanted to inspire, and if students cannot see themselves on the university campus, they can't imagine it, right? So we're going to be taking all of our students at every grade level to at least 2 colleges next year so that when they're there at the university or community college, they're able to imagine themselves being there as students.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Let's add a couple of questions. On slide 15, the family engagement priority 3, it says rate the progress in supporting staff to learn about each family's strengths, cultures, languages, and goals for their children, and we're kind of low on there. So that's, you said that the people that were asked were, I guess, the administrators, so that's how they're looking at from their position to the people they supervise? Is that, am I supposed to read that like that, or how am I supposed to read that?
The way to interpret it is that this is an area of growth for us. When we provide professional development to our teachers, it's typically based on content or curriculum,
right,
and not necessarily on how to best engage families.
Right.
And so that is an area of growth for us that we need to improve upon and begin to provide those professional learning opportunities for our staff to better support them on how to engage our families.
And can you give us an idea of what you're going to be doing different than what we're doing now to change that?
Sure. We are part of CCE Parent Engagement Network. We're in cohort 2 with the state, and through that partnership, we're learning a variety of strategies to be able to engage more families. And so what we've learned so far is that there are some districts that have parents similar to Padres Unidos, parents mentoring parents. And so you train a group of parents to become the facilitators for our staff so that our parents can then help us and co-facilitate in providing these opportunities for our teachers and staff to get to know our community. We have many different cultures, many different languages, many different traditions, and that we need to be aware of in our community, and what best way than to work collaboratively with our families to co-present to our staff. And that's one strategy that we've learned so far from a district in Southern California.
Anything else?
Well,
Okay.
when you have a little time, give me a call at your convenience, because I want to hear about this. I want to see more on the ground of what's going on, because we have 16,000 students. I don't know how much time we have or who's going to be doing it or the mechanics of all this, but I am interested in finding out a little bit more, because there's only so much time in a day, and I'm cognizant of that. But I want to see, what we're doing. So, rather than get into it now and have you give us all the explanations, if you could do that, I'd love to hear that.
Sure,
Okay?
and one of the organizations also that is local is CABE, and they also have a parent component and parent engagement, professional learning that we could also partner with.
And you can put on the list there, I think I've talked to the superintendent here at these meetings, not more than once, but, what we're doing with our incoming teachers, regardless of their experience, because I know we hire a lot of people that are incredibly intelligent, experts at what they teach, but that component, is important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we are to district communications, employee organizations, CSEA and SVFT.
So just CSCA tonight, no SBFT.
Oh, CSEA, sorry. I mean, not sorry, but, yeah.
Good evening, Superintendent Burns, members of the board, and cabinet. Tomorrow will be the start of second semester for summer school. I did share with the district some concerns we had with the first part of summer school. We need to make sure there's a plan, safety plan, before school starts August 4th. Secondly, CSEA will be meeting with HR regarding career path for all employees. We have a career ladder for clerical support. Now it's time for the district to enhance career paths for our custodial staff to promote up to maintenance positions. It's unfortunate that the maintenance department can tell a school site that they don't have time for small cosmetic repairs, and that the schools should do it. If that's the case, have our 10-month employees work during the summer and help make our schools looking better. To the board, thank you for all your hard work and dedication to our school district. Lastly, thank you to Dr. Simon, Assistant Superintendent, for working with CSEA. Have a good evening. Hawaii is looking good, huh?
Thank you. Okay, board members, we'll start at the far end with Trustee Ocampo.
There we go. Why do you always start with me?
Because you're always at the end, I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening to each and every one of you. It's nice to see you all here together, finally. Eventually, we'll get away with this later, our masks, but we're doing wonderful, talking about COVID-19. So I'd like to say thank you, God, for that. Second of all, there is a community member that was statewide recognized as one of our strong leadership working together with our youth. And she was recognized by being one of the first, I would say, Latina organizer in our community, the first one on board. And her name is Gabriel Manso. She works with Building Healthy Communities and La Cosecha Youth. And she was recognized by our Superintendent of Education, Anthony. So congratulations to her. And third of all, about a month ago, Phil, Carlos, and I had a visual meeting through Zoom with Building Healthy Communities, the youth group, La Cosecha, through Gabriela Manso, and they addressed a lot of issues and concerns about our meetings. And you know what? I appreciate that they get together They email us, they come and present in person as well, their concerns. And they're working closely with our department, in our district to bring their recommendations on board. So it was nice to meet with them and to hear their input and to come to consensus. And that's what it takes about building communities is, good night, ladies. It's about all working together, It's about, I'm not the only one here. There's a lot of us, from different places and countries, and we are here in this beautiful America. And so we just need to research what we're doing, think it through, and, listen to the recommendation and make our best decision. And I know that there will be, agreement and disagreement, but what I would like, just to refer my comments, is the decision that we need to be very, very clarified with is whether or not we're doing the right thing, okay? And as we, enter this pathway, it's not just our district, but it's coming up from the State of Education, that this curriculum was adopted and was approved. In the debate, it took years and years to come in together to provide this. And I read that, and I searched it in different districts, and Los Angeles Times is also one of the biggest reports that it tells about that. So, I'm not going after no one here, because we're all adults and we are here in good faith. But, we as an elected officials, we have to do a search before we make our commitment, because we know for a fact that whatever decision we make will affect not just the students of our districts, but the family as a whole. And I just want to share that with all of us tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
No comments tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just share briefly that I support ethnic studies. And the reason I support ethnic studies, it gives our students the opportunity to learn other cultures and just history in itself. I'm concerned about the critical race theory, how the impact is, and with our ethnic studies that we have going on in our schools. And so I think based on what we've heard and what our emails and information that have come across us, I think it's important that we just look at that and have staff let us know that we are doing what's right for our students and assure that the curriculum is based strictly on what is best for students to learn and has no other conflict. So I'm interested in ensuring that that's what we're doing. Other than that, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, thank you very much, all of you, for being here. And I don't think I've ever met any of you. You probably know me maybe by watching the meetings. But I just want to tell you thank you for being here. When I was going to college, one of the teachers that I had basically asked the class, why are you here? Why are you coming to college? And kind of everybody, you want another car, you want a good job, you want a whole bunch of stuff. But basically, he boiled it down to citizenship. That's pretty much it, citizenship. And it opened my eyes about that. I kept that all along. When we looked into the decision, made the decision to have the ethnic studies class, there was no mention, there was nothing in there about the CRT. In fact, tonight was the first time I heard about it. I know what this was. But I can assure you that I read the book. I got the book from Howard Zinn that's in the material. And I read it. I still have it there next to my bed. And I sat down and pondered it. And if any of you here hopefully have read it, or maybe you haven't, maybe pick it up. But basically, it's history. It's just history of what's happened. And probably more important, the lesson is not the race issue, but people can be mean, and real mean. And our history in this country and in the world is littered with it, littered with Holocaust, littered with people killing each other in Africa, all over the place. I could go on for another hour on that. And what's important to me when I saw this, and I did interview the teacher. I did talk to the teacher. She was the first teacher that we brought over, I think, from Monterey. We brought her over, Carla Gonzalez, I think.
She's homegrown.
Oh, but she was over there and came over.
From CSUMB, I believe.
Right. I mean, but what I mean is we brought her over to teach for us
Sure,
here.
absolutely.
Anyway, so I went and I talked to her personally, and I don't know if any of you here have done any kind of outreach like that, but I did go out there, I did talk to her. We did trade emails, and because I was concerned about the appearance. People are going to say it's brown versus white, black versus white, and on and on and on and on. But like I said, this history is littered with people of the same color of skin, the same part of the country, doing mean things to each other over and over and over again. And going back to what I learned in college from that teacher, this is extremely important that our students leaving our school are assured that they make good decisions, based on history, because if we don't look at the past, you won't know the future. You could do your same mistakes all over again, and if you don't see the signs of those things coming up in front of you, and you didn't learn from the past, we teach the kids not to play with fire because it burns you. And so it's important for me to have some critical thinking skills when they leave here. They're going to make their own choices. They're going to do what they want, but at least they know what happens, what things can happen when people, take other options. And so, yeah, I am a supporter of that. I did take a look at it. I did look at the curriculum. I did feel it's important to know this. The material that they have there covers all different ethnicities, everybody. And the writer could go on, but I did do my homework before I voted. I did read the book. I did talk to the instructor. I did talk to other people, and I made sure that it fit in with my belief for the student that's going to be getting a diploma from our school. And I know people, I don't know, they dig into all sorts of things and things, but if you look at the core and you look at what it is just that. And so that said, I'm extremely thankful that all of you showed up today. I got to hear all of you. I'm happy you're here. This is the board meeting, and as our president said, it's a meeting for the board, and you're invited. But we also have participatory democracy here. It's important that you're here so that you hear the people what they're going to say, and it's not done behind closed doors. So that's extremely important, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, and I hope, it's my hope for all of you that when you see all these stuff coming up here, every day, this is a huge organization that needs to stay afloat. It's got a lot of challenges, and I urge you, if any of you want to sit down and talk to me about any of these, I will be happy to go over them with you because, yes, no, I'm happy. So my point is, I've talked to the superintendent, to the different departments here. There are a lot of moving parts here. And I would be happy to share the challenges that we have here every single day for your sons, daughters, your family to graduate from this school. It is a big machine. I've been here only 6 years, and it's taken me about 4.5 years of talking to every single department to get an idea of what we do. And there are no easy answers. There are challenges, and the people here are doing, in my opinion, a damn good job. So with that said, thank you for your time, President, and thank you all.
I guess I'll go next. Most of you in this room, with the exception of those of us who happen to be sitting at this table, don't know who we are. I know you don't know who we are. I know for a fact you don't know who we are. I've been on the school board the longest out of anybody here, out of any of the school board members. I represent East Salinas, North Salinas, and part of Central Salinas. Okay, and I've been doing that for a while. Okay, I've only had one person run against me, and I've been on the board for over 20 years. Okay, I just retired from the university in San Jose, and I was just given emeritus status as a professor of Chicano history and ethnic studies at San Jose State University. Okay, and when I hear some of the things I heard tonight, I'm very worried. I'm very worried because some people in this room don't know what they're talking about. They haven't done the research. You can laugh. You can laugh. You can say whatever you want. I don't really care. I'm not here to respond to you. And it's scary. The last time I heard this kind of a response was when I was a kid in LaSalle High School, standing over there in front of the county jail when they locked up Cesar Chavez in the jail out there. When I heard people, and none of you were out there, no one in this room was there that night, but I was there as a 17-year-old kid from LaSalle High School. My family has been in this city since before the Depression. I know that none of you have been here since the Depression. I know that none of you can say that. I grew up in this town. I have 4 kids that went to all of our schools. Well, not all of our schools. They went to Hardin, and they went to North High, and some of them went to Hartnell, and some of them went on to the university and have their advanced degrees. Okay? Our family has been here a while. We just didn't simply get here. And when we discussed here tonight, when you saw the LCAP report, we're talking about English language learner students who make up the bulk of the students in our district and in our town, in our valley. Okay? And I know that you don't know who those people are because they're invisible to you. They are I'm not going to respond to you. They're totally invisible to you, and the majority. Hey, I don't really care. Anyway, I have raised 4 children in this town, and 4 of them have received advanced degrees. I'm not going to talk to you. Anyway. You are. Oh, I'm not going to respond. Anyway, and so when I hear the talk I heard the same kind of talk that night when I was a kid. Ugly talk about something that people don't know about. And that's why I went on to the university and became a professor. And I do know what I'm talking about. And so, we are going to do, I think, what we need to do, or what we collectively decide to do, for the good of all of our students.
You're not going to have any students.
So,
pull them all out.
Go ahead, sir.
And you're going to be voted out too.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
There you are. Next one, I know one.
Don't respond. Not worth your time.
Just want to make a clarification that one of the audience members mentioned that the sole person that voted against ethnic studies was Trustee Sassy Jones. I just want to make a correction. She did not vote against it. And it was actually 2 people. It was me, myself, and also Trustee Sassy Jones. We didn't vote against ethnic studies. We voted against the process, the way it was delivered, because there wasn't any stakeholders involved in the decision-making process. And that's what we were pushing for. Let's get community members, let's get parents, let's get teachers, everyone involved in this and be able to make a decision.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we'll go.
No, he's still going.
One of the greatest things benefits living in this great country we call America is the freedom of speech. So I thank everyone for coming here, expressing their opinions and their concerns, especially for this young man, 18 years old, coming out here and having the courage of coming and speaking. You know, that speaks very highly. So you have a very good upbringing by your parents, so I applaud your parents for that work. And when I think of ethnic studies, I looked at it and I go, you know, it does make sense, but we need to encompass everyone. Let's cover whites, blacks, browns. Let's cover all of our ethnicity. So when I think of ethnicity, I think of a state belonging to a social group that has a common national tradition, and that's everyone. All of us, we all have that. We have that common tradition, and so, you know, the Pledge of Allegiance, I take it very to the heart because you know, there's a lot of things happening. And so with the last line of the Pledge of Allegiance, if you look at it and you understand what its meaning, it's indivisible with liberty and justice for all. What does that mean? It means that we cannot be divided, we'll be free of restrictions, and everyone will be treated fairly. That's what it really means. And so to this day, I mean, you know, carry this because to this day, I still am involved in the armed forces, and they ask me, well, how come you're still involved? You're kind of too old. I go, because I made a pledge to this country that I will stand and defend it and protect against foreign enemies. Exactly. And so here I stand to also be a public servant for everyone in the community, for you, for our members. And so we all come together, have a meeting of the mind, and come up with an amicable resolution and make this a reality and everyone be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have the superintendent.
Good, so I have about 30 minutes of comments tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Dr. Simon, I just want to make sure you're awake. You're the new guy. Summer session. So real quickly, I appreciate CSEA bringing up summer session. We still have about 3,000 students attending in person daily for over 7 hours a day. We anticipate this year we will have a large number of graduates because some students needed extra time because distance learning wasn't necessarily the best format for them. So I'm excited that we may have up to 200 graduates during the summer ceremony, so we'll get that information to you. And if you're available, I know it's during the day, it can be tough. We'd love to have a board member there, certified diplomas, and congratulate our graduates. The district has participated for several years now in the Labor Management Initiative, which is about building partnerships between labor and management, obviously. That's what LMI is for. And so we have engaged in that process. Today was the first day of training. I want to thank Dr. Simon, Dr. Baltazar Sabah, our CBO, Anna Aguillon, our CSEA representative, Lucy Vega, and from SVFT, Katie Bassler, President and Vice President Steve McDougall, as well as a representative from confidential employees for participating in the process. We're looking forward to continuing to build great relationships between labor and management. Also wanted to share with you that, you know, when we go back to school on August 4th, a lot of students are coming to school with a certain level of trauma that the pandemic has caused, right? For whatever reason, they're bringing trauma with them, and it's going to express itself in different ways. The number one way it's going to express itself is in anxiety. We're seeing that already in summer school, and so I wanted to share with you just some recognition for one of our staff members, and this was reported to me from Lourdes Rivas, who's an officer through Monterey County Probation Department. So on June 17th, 2021, at approximately 8:30 a.m., Mount Toro personnel notified me that a student was experiencing an anxiety attack in the school's main office. Moments later, Ms. Melissa Gonzalez, academic counselor, arrived on the scene. Without notice or hesitation, Ms. Gonzalez immediately engaged the student and took control of the situation. With the help of Ms. Gonzalez, the student was able to compose himself and normalize his breathing. Ms. Gonzalez's work did not stop there, as she reached out to local nonprofit organizations and sought services for the student. She spoke to the student calmly and explained what the student could do or expect next. Furthermore, she made the necessary arrangements to allow the student to continue his schoolwork while he remained in the office. In all, Ms. Gonzalez displayed compassion, professionalism, and composure in a stressful situation. I hope her hard work does not get unnoticed. So tonight I'm recognizing Melissa Gonzalez, a counselor at Mount Toro, for going over and above and supporting this young person. This happens often. Our counselors receive extensive training in this type of support as well as in grief support. So I'm really of value to our school district for having that foresight. Also today I was informed one of our teachers received national recognition, the Amazon Future Engineer Teacher of the Year Awards honors and recognizes 10 all-star teachers from across the nation who work diligently to help students in underserved or underrepresented communities pursue futures in computer science and robotics. The award recipients are formally recognized by Amazon. They will receive $25,000 to expand, my 3 minutes is up, to expand computer science and or robotics education at their schools, plus they will receive an additional $5,000 teacher cash award. So I'm really excited to let you know that Lauren Insay from Alisal High School is one of those teachers, one of the 10 across the nation to receive the honor. So congratulations to Mr. Insay and the students and staff at Alisal High School. Trustees, reminders that we have our 2+2 board meetings that are happening with our neighboring districts. So Thursday we have Santa Rita, right? Excellent, Trustee Rubio and Trustee Rojas. And then on the 30th, we have Alisal, and that will be Trustee Ocampo and President Tabera. And so I'm looking forward to those interactive meetings with our local elementary school feeder boards. Also, I'm really excited about the civic learning plan that you saw tonight because the ultimate result is that we're creating kids with more civic-minded skill sets when they leave. And at the same time, for those that pursue beyond just attending class and do some civic projects, they can earn a civic seal of civic literacy on their diploma, which makes them more marketable, not just for colleges, but for careers as well. So we are ahead of the curve across the state. With this recognition, I have some colleagues out in the Central Valley, Clovis area, who are calling saying, how are you doing that? Can we take a look? And we've told them, no, you have to wait. So we want to make sure we get it done first. I want to thank the board and members of the executive cabinet for giving me some space last week. Very appreciative of having that space after the 16 months that we all just endured. So thank you for that. Also, just as we progress through the rest of the agenda, you have the MOU tonight in consent is for supporting teacher training. So the MOU is contracting with an agency to support teacher training. Just a reminder, you've already approved ethnic studies courses. So you have a year-long course that's been approved for almost 4 years, which is an elective, and you have a one-semester course, which you approved in December of 2019, and then you approved the curriculum last spring. So that's a semester-long course as a requirement. That is an introductory course, or what they call an exploratory course. It's only 18 weeks, and so the curriculum is not based on critical race theory. However, we'll take a look at some of the comments made and take a look just to make sure that this is not something that's going to unpack over time. But it's not malicious. This is a course about exposing our students to cultures around them and how they influence each other and making them better civic members of our community long term. So the curriculum is available. Anybody can get it. People have called me and I've sent it to them. We've sent them the readers. We've sent them all of that stuff. So just a reminder though, you're not voting tonight on ethnic studies. That's already been done. It's really the MOU for a professional development group who we have already used in the past. And so this is contracting with them again. So I will wrap my comments up there, President Tabera.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have, the board will hold a public public hearing to receive input on the energy services contract with Engine. We'll open the public hearing.
You take
We'll
over.
open the public hearing.
Yes.
Is there any comment? And we will close the public hearing, move to action.
It would be nice if I could hear what you're saying.
Now we'll take number A, Resolution 21-41, State Seal of Civic Engagement. Can we hear a motion for discussion?
Public comment closed.
It's pretty close.
Quite some time ago. Yeah, thank you.
I did. Resolution 21-41, State Seal of Civic Engagement. Do we hear?
So move on that
for
resolution, Trustee President Ocampo.
Second.
Discussion. We have discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number B.
Yeah, you want me to take over? You want me to go? Yeah. You want me to go? Take it over? Take the movie for you?
I can do that.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Approve, number B, approve the 2021, 2022 local control.
So move on that one, President.
Local
Tavera.
control, pardon?
Move on that one.
Oh, move. Do we
Motion
hear
to
a
approve.
second?
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Number C, Resolution 21-44, ratification of payment for Sandra Ocampo.
I am moved to approve.
Moved by trustee Southburn,
Seconded.
seconded by trustee Rojas. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. D, declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Hear a motion?
So move on that declaration.
Moved.
to qualify.
And
A second.
seconded. Discussion?
Not a discussion, but it's just a comment. I think this is a great opportunity to continue, researching for quality teachers for our district.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. F, adopt resolution 21-42 to establish Fund 08-Student Activity Special Revenue Fund. Do we hear a motion?
So move on that motion
Moved.
or resolution.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second, discussion. Questions?
Bring on the funds for the students. That's all
All
I'm
in
here
favor of the
for.
motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Number G, Resolution 21-43, approve revised municipalities, colleges, schools, insurance group, MIGSIG, Joint Powers Authority, JPA agreement. Do you hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Call for motion. Carlos?
Second the motion
Seconded by
to
trustee
approve.
Ocampo. Any discussion?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Big question. Is this going to help our insurance rates go down?
No.
That's the most important thing, I'll tell you.
No.
Those rates keep going up and keep going up.
Yeah, we
Yes?
agree.
They did.
We agree.
No, this
Oh,
this
all right.
has nothing to do with rate setting.
What's that?
Has nothing to do with rate setting.
Oh, well, I was reaching, that's all. I'm sorry.
Any other comment?
Not coming, but you know what? Kudos to the GPA because through working together with South County and North County, in creating after-school programs and making sure that our students that are staying locally in colleges are, you know, helping guided through, and then also the vocational careers that we offer through
Yes.
this program are excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now we have H, approve energy services contract with Engel.
So moved.
Moved. Do we have a second?
Second on that.
Second discussion.
Do all of our schools, is Rancho the last school to get solar?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
And all the schools have the solar turned on now? And we're,
That's correct, but that's, I just want to remind the board that based on the presentation that was provided by Angie a couple of meetings ago, the solar will still discuss on our project list.
Yeah.
It will not be funded. This phase 1, 2, and 3 is currently under the ESSER 3 and ESSER 2 plan. And we will come back and discuss how we're going to fund the solar for Rancho San Juan.
okay.
Okay.
That's my question.
We heard a motion? We do.
I
vote.
made the motion.
And you seconded it. And that was a question. Do we vote on it? I was reading this over here.
Call for the vote.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? Motion carried.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay. No, because I got distracted being on something that was not on mine, but it was on this other one. 2021-22 adopted budget.
Information items.
So it's an action item. It's on your
It's an
printed
action, but
agenda.
it's in the wrong spot.
It's in the wrong spot.
Oh.
It wasn't on mine
So
either.
you're adopting the agenda tonight, the budget tonight.
Where is it?
Do you hear a motion on the budget?
I'll make a motion to adopt 2021 English Learners Semester Program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so let's go back.
Yeah.
So on your electronic version,
Yes.
it omitted the adopted budget item that's on the printed agenda. When the printed agenda is the official.
It's not
It's the
here.
official one.
It's
So,
there.
yeah, so you had the information, presentation, everything on the budget last session. So
Yes.
now you have to adopt it tonight.
Okay.
I know,
Okay, that's fine.
okay,
So
Phil,
I will make the motion to adopt the agenda, the budget.
she just made the motion.
you
Are
did?
you seconding the motion?
Okay, so I'll second the motion.
Discussion.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And that was the last one to add to action?
That was it.
Information. 2021 English Learner Master Plan. Questions or concerns?
So this is, there's an update to the English Learner Master Plan. There was you have the entire document under consent. However, we have a brief presentation just so that you are aware of the changes that are implemented. So I'll introduce our Director of Ed Services, Mr. Antonio Garcia, so that he can present and share the changes with you.
Okay.
Good evening to everyone. How's my sound? Okay?
Yes,
sir.
All right. Good evening, President Tavera, Board, Mr. Burns, and your cabinet. Pleasure to be here. As we mentioned, I'm here to provide some information about our EL Master Plan. So I would start off by letting you know that this is a very critical document, plan for our school district, because it is the guide that all staff use to systematically ensure that we provide support for our English learners to make sure that they are successful and to make sure that they reclassify as quickly as possible. So it is a document that our EL support staff uses, our English learner specialists, our administrators, and a multitude of other staff to make sure we're all on the same page with supporting them. This year, I was given the honor and the responsibility of leading our EL program for the first time for me, and I had the honor of working with the EL Job Alike team, which is every single school site, as you know, has a team of staff that looks out for their English learners on site, and then I also had the honor of working with the DLAC to make sure our parents were involved in the process. As was referred to earlier, we have a high concentration of English learners in our district, over 3,000 students, over 20% of our students are English learners, so this matters, and it's important that we have a plan that works and a plan that people are knowledgeable about. Just recently, we've had some of the scores come in for the LPAC, so we're working closely with Mr. Cannon and with our sites to make sure that the sites have the information and we can begin the reclassification process, which is connected to this plan. One of the things that's critical for everyone to know is that the EO master plan is connected and completely aligned with the most recent CPE EO program instrument that was just updated a year ago. And in there, you will find all these different components that we as a school district are responsible for. It's a collection of legal requirements. It's a collection of guidelines and tools and expectations for our school sites to follow to make sure that we're following board policy, that we're following state policy, and that we are aligned again with the federal government when it comes to doing this important work. So some of the titles that you can see there in our master plan, right, is how we go about identifying, for example, and assessing, how we ensure that Title III funds are used responsibly with our students, how do we ensure parent voice, what is our reclassification criteria, et cetera. So our plan has all of these important components in it. And one of the things that I want to underscore in this plan and this work that we do is that it doesn't fall on one person. It doesn't fall on just the principals or Mr. Burns. It doesn't fall on just our EOD teachers. This is a collective effort and expectation that we all have the professional and moral obligation to do this work. So it really is connected across all classrooms, all teachers. And again, this is what the plan calls for. I wanted to also for you to have a bit of context and some of the background for the EO master plan that you have before you, that all of you have reviewed, which is a very complex and in-depth document. It was last board approved in 2010. In 2018, Mr. Salcedo, who was my predecessor in this position, worked with the EO committee to review the EO master plan, to look at what language that has been updated from the state or the federal government or from our board needed to be updated into the plan. And even simple things like we've moved since 2010 from the CELT, right, our state assessment for English learners, to the LPAC, and a bunch of other different changes again that have come from the state that we made sure that we integrated into the plan. The final draft, was shared with me last summer, and then we spent this school year, looking at other FPM feedback and other guidelines from the state that needed to be a part of it, and we've included it into the plan that you have before you, helping us arrive to today. So I'm going to walk you through some of the key updates that are in the plan. First and foremost, we part of our committee, we were blessed to have several English teachers, so we definitely spent a good amount of time updating spelling, grammar, structure, making sure that the document was ultimately easy to read and clear to our staff who uses it. We also made it more technologically savvy, adding hyperlinks and an appendix that was more user-friendly as well. The previous document was a bit more, of an old Word document, and it wasn't as easy to navigate through. So that was some critical changes that we made to it. Now, in regards to some of the substance, we were receiving feedback from school site teams through the EL Job Alike. In regards to EL10, which is about reclassification, the sites were requesting, and rightly so, to make things clear about how we would go about calling and facilitating a language review team. And so for any of you who are not familiar with that, it is a process that we have in our school districts, where if a student has met all of the other 3 criteria, but if they're not meeting criteria number 2, which is their course grades, that they have a passing grade in English or ELD, that a team can be convened to determine whether the student should be reclassified. Because, for example, you may have a situation where a kid, because of poor attendance or because lack of motivation, was not applying themselves in the course, it did not mean, based on all the other data, that they had not met the criteria to be considered reclassified as English proficient. So we clarified the process and provided more tools to help teams be able to facilitate the language review, or the LRT as we call it. For EL10 also, when it came to reclassification, there has been recent guidelines from the state, from the Department of Education. As you can see here, there is a link in your document, in your presentation, for the Practitioner's Guide for Educating English Learners with Disabilities. And we used that recent language to make sure that we were aligned. And some of the great things that the guide called on is to have much more communication and a collaboration between teachers, administrators, and also the students, the special education team, their ed specialists, the teacher directly working with them on their IEP and with the parents. So it's updated to meet those guidelines. We also provided, again, more tools to help that process because, dear board, we have some instances where the team strongly believes that the reason why a student is not reclassifying isn't because they haven't mastered English, but it could be specifically because of, for example, a speech impediment or a reading disability that's getting in the way, but not necessarily the mastering of English. So these guidelines are critical for looking deeply at data and to make an informed decision collaboratively as to whether that might be the reason for why they are not reclassifying and then reclassifying them. For EL 13, 2 years ago, we had a federal program monitoring review of our EL program, and there was one finding, and it had to do with EL 13, with language acquisition program and parent choice. We needed to make sure that we had the most updated guidance and language from the CDE, which we have put into EL 13. So when you go into the document and you go to the area of language acquisition program and parent choice, the language now reflects the most updated guidance from the CDE again. And basically what it's calling for, right, is for our parents and our stakeholders to be really clear that if the school district has clearly outlined what our programs are, right, what the resources are for English learners, and if there is enough calls from parents or students for a different resource or different program or a different class, that the district has a responsibility to respond to it if 30 or more parents from one school side are calling for a particular thing, right? And if 20 or more students from that school side similarly are calling for a particular service, that the district is responsible to look into it and to implement it to the extent possible. And the language is a little bit vague there coming from the CDE, but I think the bottom line is that when you hear critical mass from our students or our parents calling for a particular service or a program, because they know their students and they know their needs very well, that we need to listen to it and look into it to see if we may be able to provide it. You will also see a form that we needed to create that was not there before, and that's the language acquisition form, where a parent has immediate access to communicate a request for something different if they feel that what we are offering is not meeting their students' needs. And the form has also been added to our parent handbook. So starting in next year, the language that you see in the EL master plan and the form will also be available to our parents as well. And this EL 14 ELD, this came from a request from our staff that they wanted more supporting guidelines from the school district for how to appropriately place students, our newcomers in particular, so those who are newly arrived to the country, who are in our ELD 1, 2, or 3 courses. And this has to do with, there's much more movement, either more slowly than anticipated or sometimes faster than anticipated when it comes to our newcomer group. And so you can have a person, for example, who's in ELD 1, and just because they finished the course ELD 1 does not necessarily mean they're ready for ELD 2. They may need to spend more time in ELD 1 possibly. So it provides guidelines for kids who are not on the common or the common trajectory, if you will. And same thing, if you have a student who's in ELD 2, but they're showing through their grades and through their performance on data that they're ready to move beyond ELD 3, it also provides guidance for our staff to know how to move a student more appropriately, and also how to collaborate with each other between the middle schools and high schools. I believe, as you saw in the timeline, that in the context that I shared with you at the beginning, we do not want to go like 10 years in between a board approval for updated language coming from the CDE, for example. We want to have more constant review. So some of the things that we're going to do starting this year is that we're going to have an EL master plan subcommittee whose responsibility will be to annually review this document so that we can have it be responsive to our school sites and to our families and to our English learners. I am going to pause there and see if anyone might have any questions for me.
Thank you for the presentation. It was great information. My question is, as you stated in the last slide, that it said to revise as needed, a board approval for policy. Would you be working on that now? Is that something that we can support you with?
The support for approving this EO master plan that we submitted to you for this year, that's the support right now. I really want to thank, Trustee Rojas and others who've been involved directly with our English learner program. I think having a representative from the board be involved as this board has been is really helpful. I look forward to providing the board with an annual review. I think having more constant communication with the plans, with what is working, what isn't, and what needs to be revised would be critical. And if I just may, I really wanted to thank the committee. I won't name all of them by name because there's a lot of people, but I really want to thank that EO Master Plan Committee because they put a lot of hours to ensure that we can get to this point where we had a master plan that was worthy of your review.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, then we'll move to the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you know what, I did have something to ask. On slide 8, this is new to me. It's the second bullet point, provides parent guidance on declining English learner programs and services. What is that about? Is the money declining from the state, or I don't understand that. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's just opening, the language reach is more so speaking on if there's programs that may no longer be meeting the needs that we had initially identified before, all it really is saying is that there's a space for the parents to give voice if a program is not meeting the needs of our kids. And it could also speak to like changing demographics as well. Even from one home country that the students are coming from, or demographic changes from one side to another. I think it's just really speaking on if something has changed, that we need to look at it in a different way that we do that.
I think I read that wrong because I understood it. Do you understand what I'm looking? I thought the money for the program was declining,
Right.
as opposed to the parents declining the service, right? And going to something else when I was reading
Yes.
that.
Good question.
Yeah, okay, yeah, all right, that's it, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, next we'll move to number C. First reading of board policy number 3452, student activity funds. Questions, concerns?
You missed B, Mr. President.
Did we skip B?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
B.
First reading of job description, school social worker support provider. Questions or concerns?
Nope, I think it's a great job description.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Number C, student activity funds, number 3452. Questions or concerns? Okay. Number D, first reading of board policy number 7210, facilities financing. Questions or concerns?
Oh, good, good.
Okay, very good.
Mr. President, not a question, not a concern.
Yes, ma'am.
But mainly a question. I'm glad to see that we're approving this policy to really start negotiating with stakeholders, hoping with the idea that we can have ways to build up housing for school teachers, that we need, because houses are like way too high. And this is what I feel, that we end up losing a lot of good potential teachers in our community because of the lack of housing.
Yeah, this one isn't actually related to that policy, but I'll bring it back for you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, next we have consent, motion or for discussion.
I'll make a motion to,
Motion to approve. Do we have a second for discussion?
I'll second that.
Second? Is any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we are to future agenda items. Reference, Agenda Master Planning Guide.
It's good, so we'll go over it next planning meeting.
Okay. Future board meetings, July 13, 2021, and August 10, 2021. Do we hear, I think, didn't someone have something they wanted to propose for one of the future agenda items?
I did.
Did you already submit it?
I did. Did you get it?
Yes.
Yeah, so just basically, since we're all here, I just asked if we could look at rotating the meetings to every school going forward, and to ask the superintendent and the staff to look into doing that. And for the people in the audience here and everybody, basically we've never reached out to all the schools, and at least in my own opinion, it's important for me to go to every school and have a meeting there and get input from all of our meetings are always held in one office or at another school. And it's, again, going back to participatory democracy, it's important to me to have our presence up. That's enough
So we'll
said.
put it on as agenda.
That's it.
And it's appropriate because it falls within the Agenda Master Plan.
Engagement. We have engagement.
Yeah.
It's engagement for the board.
Very good.
Mr. President, also,
Yes, ma'am.
in addition to that, I think it's important for all of us to continue rotating every single school. I think it's great because we've seen many new faces that we've never seen before.
That's it.
And we're bringing in input of our community. And bottom line, this is exciting, you know. But in addition to that also, I would like to request, if it is possible, to start looking into changing the timing of our board meetings, you know, backwards, instead of a closed meeting to open meeting, maybe open meeting to closed meeting, so we can hear more input of our community earlier, and they don't have to be here so late.
Okay.
So that is something.
Did you fill out that form for that?
I will write it up.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to apologize to my fellow board members and to our staff for my reaction tonight. And do we hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved, and do we hear a second? Second, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Meeting is now adjourned.
Very good, thank you.